Hi, I'm Dawn Masler. Welcome to Love School. This is lesson number 6 in our series about love. Last week I talked about attraction. That's the first phase in the science of love. I also introduced you to the concept of perceived vulnerability, or that level of anxiety or stress you feeling during the process of meeting, dating, and falling in love. This week, I want to talk to you about the second phase. This is sometimes called dating or courtship or the chase stage. If you recall, last week I showed you the graph where your perceived vulnerability decreases a little with attraction, but then escalates during this phase. This can cause some people to get really nervous when they're dating. In fact, one of my clients told me that she hated dating, but she wanted to find love, so she would start to date a man, but the moment she discovered one thing about him she didn't like, she would break it off. Her feelings would get so uncomfortable, especially if she liked the guy, that she would look for any little thing to call a deal breaker. One guy smoked, another one had funny teeth, and another guy, she didn't think he liked her cat. She wanted love, but going through the courtship process was so uncomfortable that breaking it off, although painful, was a relief. I like to call dating designating a time to evaluate. That's one of the reasons why it can be so nerve-wracking. You're trying to make one of the biggest decisions in your life, who to fall in love with. The reason why this is so nerve-wracking is because once you fall in love, you become extremely vulnerable to that other person. So Mother Nature has actually created barriers to prevent you from falling in love with the wrong person, namely this dating phase. So what's happening during this dating or chase phase? Each person is building up his or her neurotransmitters until they reach the biological tipping point we call falling in love. One of the biggest neurotransmitters in dating is dopamine. Dopamine is a neurotransmitter of pleasure and reward. If you like something or someone, you get a little dopamine. You have a fun date, a little dopamine's released. He calls you, a little more dopamine. You plan a second date, a little more dopamine. Eventually, it builds up to you fall in love. Dopamine causes your brain to pay attention. This is felt as nervousness and anxiety. You're excited, motivated, and paying attention. But dopamine's only one of the molecules involved. That's the one that's common between both men and women. But here it changes. That's why one reason dating in courtship can be so tricky. Men and women fall in love different. Men can be victim to something called the Coolidge effect. That's where his dopamine level goes up and down rapidly without falling in love. I've done another video on that, and I'll provide you a link if you want to learn more about that. But as for the dating process, now I simplified the process a little to make it easier to understand, but basically for a woman to fall in love, she needs both dopamine and oxytocin. Oxytocin is sometimes called the cuddle or love hormone. It increases with touching and socialization, but it also increases when she starts to trust him. One of the hormones that rises in men is testosterone, which coincidentally rises when he is trusted. That's why I say biologically dating is really about risk assessment. By now you're wondering, okay, what's the risk? The risk is the next phase. Probably your biggest biological risk you'll ever face in your lifetime is falling in love. Many of you might think I'm crazy. When I do workshops, I ask people, how many have fallen in love? And everybody raises their hands. And I say, what did it feel like? Everybody would say, it felt great. It felt wonderful. It was euphoric. That's the point of dating. Everybody's looking to fall in love. No one thought it was a risk. They think it's a goal. That's the goal of dating. Everybody's looking to fall in love. So where does the risk come from? Okay, I'll explain next week why I call love temporary insanity. It's amazing, delightful, euphoric temporary insanity, but it's temporary insanity nevertheless. It's a period of extreme vulnerability where important parts of your brain shut down. One of the main parts of your brain that shuts down is the amygdala. That's your alarm system. That's why it's euphoric, because your stress level drops, and it's also one of the reasons why love feels so great. This is what makes it easier to get close to someone, but it's also why it's so risky. Let me tell you a story about a coaching client I had named Jessica. Jessica came to me. She was frustrated and upset. She had been dating this guy for months, but the relation was caught in a terrible pattern. As we talked about this, she was visibly embarrassed. You see, Jessica was a beautiful, highly educated, and a successful woman, but she was hopelessly stuck in this relationship with this guy. She told me they didn't even date anymore. She said he would text at like 10 o'clock at night, and she knew she wouldn't respond, but she couldn't help herself. Next thing you know, he's coming over. He would spend the night and leave early the next morning. The embarrassing part, she said, was that she knew he was dating other women. She really wanted a relationship, but she didn't know how to move it to the next level, nor did she know how to break it off. That's the risk. When one falls in love and the other doesn't. You see, Jessica had fallen in love, but the guy hadn't. This left her chemically bonded to him, and this can last for years. It can be a huge risk, but there are ways to make sure that he falls in love first. I think this is so important. I'm creating a whole course on this, and that will be out in the fall that'll explain the process. Not only show you how to get a man to fall in love, I'll show you how to make sure that he falls in love first. If you're interested in finding more about this, make sure you sign up on my website at dawnmasler.com. I'll have more information coming about that soon. But for next week, I'll explain what happens to your brain when you fall in love. I promise you, you'll never look at love the same way again. This will be fun, exciting, and quite enlightening. So make sure you subscribe so you don't miss a thing. I'll see you next week in Love School.